Creating world peace, solving the world's problem, and becoming holy at the same time. Becoming an individual, becoming our real true self or our real essence. It's exactly what we're going to be talking about right now. We're going to learn what these things are, what they aren't, how we can do them, and how they relate to our lives, and how they relate to our internal psychological processes. So first, let's look at this idea of psychophobia. What is psychophobia? It's basically the phobia or the fear or the avoidance of your own thoughts or your own mind, or the irrational fear of looking at psychological processes or psychological reflection. And this is a real term. This is a real psychological term, psychophobia. And we might ask ourselves, how many people do we know are psychophobic? How many times in our lives have we found ourselves being psychophobic, or afraid of looking at our own mind, or afraid of looking at our own thoughts and psychological processes? And if we are not willing to do that for ourselves, who's going to be willing to do that for us? If we're not willing to tend our own garden, whose garden are we going to tend? And who's going to tend our garden? Well, by doing this, by being psychophobic, by handing everything over and giving away power and responsibility, we really leave the door open for a whole lot of things that undermine our health, undermine our consciousness and our personal development. So, as far as societal concepts go, we really only recognize biological death, meaning you're born, you grow, and then all of a sudden your biological body dies and ceases to exist. That's what we recognize as death. We don't recognize psychological death. We don't recognize the death of someone's essence, or the death of someone's real character, or the death of their shin, or their shin essence or shin energy. We don't recognize that. And as a result, because people are psychophobic and because we don't recognize that someone can be dead inside, someone can be dead psychologically, their essence or their shin or their real nature could be long gone. And think about how many people on the planet are walking around like this right now. And if you go to the store, you go around, you go places, you see people that are just literally sort of just walking around like zombies. You look in their eyes, you talk to them, there's nothing there. There's no response. There's no real presence. And that's the thing, is sometimes you feel a presence. You feel an energy about something. You're around someone and you say, wow, that person just has a presence about them. They just have an energy about them. And then you're around other people and you feel your energy just goes, zoom, just drops down and dies, or you feel tightness somewhere in your body. Or you talk to people and you look in their eyes and it's just like a blank stare and there's nothing there. Maybe they're on meds, maybe they're on antidepressants or anti-anxieties or drugs or alcohol of different shapes and sizes. Maybe they're psychologically dead, maybe their shin has left, maybe they're really psychophobic and gave their whole essence over to someone else. And this can apply in a similar sense when you talk to someone and they're not present at all. All they can give you is their rehearsed responses, their rehearsed programmed, what they've said before, the same story they say every time, the same response they give every time, the same words, the same speech patterns, the same everything that they do all the time in every situation regardless. And you can look at them and you can see that in their eyes and in their mind, they're not listening, they're not present. All they're thinking of is their mind's going, or what their reaction is, or what they're going to say, or what you're saying is good, bad, right, or wrong. And there's no presence. There's no emptiness, there's no void, there's no real essence there. So we can usually conclude this person's probably psychophobic. They might even just be completely just vacant, dead inside. And really, people are just walking around this state all the time. And this allows us to draw a nice parallel between Chinese medicine, because they have the three treasures. They have Shin. Well, Shin has never really made much sense until this conversation, which really, we need to add this. We need to put like Shin in really big capital letters, because up until now, no one has really talked about it. No one has really explained it, really what it means, really what it looks like, really what it's all about. And now, by contrast, we can see really what Shin is, how it manifests, and how it's really important in our lives. Meaning we're more conscious, we're more embodied, our energy is flowing more effectively, we're more aware of our thoughts, we're more aware of the how and why of our thoughts and our conditioning, more aware of what's going on in our body, and we're actually present. We actually have a presence. We actually have an energy, because that's what's living inside of us. And, it's not always easy. It sucks. The world is dualistic sometimes. And our mind is not all light. Our mind has darkness. We have a shadow. We have a shadow self. We have suppression and repression and all these things inside of us that we just don't want to deal with. We have emotions. We have anger and frustration and resentment, sadness and bitterness and hurt. All of these things that they don't always feel that good. Sometimes when you look yourself in the mirror, you're not always happy with what you see. You're not always happy with what is happening in your life or the choices that you make. But it's hard. Yeah, it's hard sometimes. And other times it's really easy, it's really fun, it feels really good, it's really rewarding. On the same token, it's really difficult to not be paying attention. It's really difficult to be unconscious. It's really difficult to live an unexamined life. Because either way, we're making choices. Every day we are making a choice. Every day we are focusing energy. Every day we are focusing attention on something. And it doesn't necessarily mean one thing is harder or easier than another. What it means is, where's our mindset? Where is our focus? And what direction are we really going in? And are we even willing to look at our own thoughts and look at our own self and see really what's going on? Or have we just given it all over away to someone else and we're just sort of walking around like a zombie? Which that in and of itself is hard. It's hard to feel horrible. It's hard to feel terrible. In the same way, it takes a little bit of work and time and energy to feel good. So either way, we are alive. We're going to be working. We're going to be doing things. The question is, well, what, where, and how? So at this point, because it's so hard to be an individual and to listen to your internal dialogue, to listen to yourself and your feelings and your emotions and your states, and really just be aware of yourself and have some Shin and have some consciousness. Because that's so difficult, society and culture presents a whole myriad of distractions or surrogates for the absence of this process. So, things like, people want to be different. People want to be unique. They want to be themselves. So I'm going to be a punk. I'm going to be a goth. I'm going to be a hippie. I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to belong to this class or this group. Or I'm going to not belong to any classes or groups at all because I'm better than that. And, I want to be different, so I'm going to shop at this store. I want to be different, so I'm going to do my hair in this way or color my hair in that way and get this piercing or that tattoo or this clothes or that clothes. And now I'm different. Now I'm an individual. And really, at the end of the day, all that really takes is simply just, I'm going to go buy this here. End of story, period, done. It has really nothing to do with really being different, really being an individual, or really looking at yourself in an authentic way. Maybe the people that originated these different movements were at the seed or at the real essence. Maybe they looked at themselves and saying, okay, I'm going to be an individual. This is what I want to do. No one's done it before. And then they did it. And then everyone else was like, ooh, I want to be an individual too. I'm going to do what you did. And everyone jumps on the bandwagon. Kind of like in music, someone comes along, innovates, creates something new, and then everyone's like, oh, that's awesome. We got to do that. And everyone just jumps and falls in line and basically just tries to copy that thing. When in reality, they're just copying. They're not necessarily embodying the real authentic energy, the real authentic expression. And really, it's just because society and culture and groups and cults and religions and all these sorts of things know that each of us has this void. Each of us has this real desire. So they say, oh, don't worry about actually looking at yourself. We know you're afraid. We know it's hard work. We know it's scary. So here, just wear these clothes. just shop at these stores, just drive this kind of car, listen to this kind of music, and it's okay. Now you're an individual. Now you're different. Just like the millions of other people that are doing the exact same thing. You're all different. You're all unique. Period. End of story. Which we can see is pretty silly, pretty absurd, pretty lame. And sure, we can do these things. We can belong to groups. We can wear clothes. We can buy this and do that. Well, we should never forget the real internal essence of what it is. Maybe we like the way something looks. Cool, fine, sure, who cares? It doesn't matter. What it really matters is the internal experience, the internal reflection of the person, of the individual, and being aware of how and why things are actually happening and what they're actually doing. And at this point, people get usually angry because they say, oh, all these people are selling us lies. You know, these religions are trying to control us and manipulate us, and governments are doing this, and cults are doing that, and the media is doing this, and TV, and everyone is doing all this stuff, and they really shouldn't do that because it's bad. And here's what I think is better. And there's been a lot of people in history that have thought that same thing. They think, oh, you know, this group over here is repressing all of these people down here, and they've got it all wrong, so I'm going to go do it better because I know what works. What ends up happening is they end up overthrowing that person through a coup or some other sort of overtaking, and all of a sudden they end up just doing the exact same thing. Because they're still buying into this mindset, and they're still basically giving other people dominion over their internal sort of field or their internal autonomy. And they probably have the belief that that's okay. That people should behave like that, people should believe like that, and that's okay. And really, when someone is operating from that mindset, probably going to be issues. So it's easy to get mad. It's easy to project on people and say, well, it's their fault, they're doing this, they're doing that, they shouldn't do this, they shouldn't do that. The bigger question is, were we sold a lie, or did we buy a lie? Meaning, who is responsible? Are we stuck in guilt? Are we blaming other people? Well, it's their fault. They did this. Or are we saying, well, yeah, I did buy into that. I did buy into that lie. I did willingly agree to do X, Y, and Z. I did willingly believe that. Or I was in a bad place, or I was confused and I did A, B, and C, and now here I am. Or are we blaming them? Oh, well, it's that political party or it's that religious group, and we just got to get rid of them. If we just get rid of them, then everything will be perfect and everything will be fine. And we should ask ourselves, does that mindset sound familiar? If we look at history, look at genocide, we look at wars and plagues and renaissances and killing of mass people all across human history, it's usually done for these reasons. Oh, there's a problem. Oh, it's their fault. Oh, okay, well, if we just get rid of them, everything will be fine. Which happens, but it never happens. Meaning people were gone, they're wiped out, but the problem's still there, because where is the problem? It's in that person's mind. It's in their own psyche. It's not in this other group. Because they're still blaming them. They're still putting the guilt on them. They're still putting the shame on this other person, rather than saying, well, who is responsible? Was I sold a lie? Or did I buy a lie? Did I buy into this whole crap about being a part of some group, thinking that was going to give me definition and give me self-identity and give me really to what I need to fill this internal void? Because it's so hard for me to be an individual and think for myself and look at my own life, because I'm so afraid of what's inside my own mind, so afraid of reflecting, so afraid of looking at my own psychological processes. So things to consider. And we can look at it and realize that it's not about, going out and saying, okay, we've got to just get rid of, TV, we got to get rid of mainstream culture, we got to get rid of all these things. What it's really about is us being mature, is us being aware, is us being adept and responsible for what's going on. Meaning, if we go to the store and we buy something, we know, okay, I drove to the place, I walked in the store, I gave them my money, I took the thing, and I exchanged money for this thing. Meaning we're aware of what we're exchanging and why. Because Buying things is not inherently bad. Selling things is not bad. Those things are great and can be amazing, can really help people, can really uplift humanity. The question is, what is the mindset? What is the psychology? And what is being exchanged? Are we giving away our autonomy and our personal dominion to someone else for some false idea or for some false sort of self-identity? Or is someone offering us something that maybe can genuinely help us if we really are willing to help ourselves, and they're exchanging equal value for that? So things to look at and realize that it's up to us. We are responsible. We are responsible to mature, to adapt, and to be adept at understanding these things and being aware of these things. Because if we haven't taken care of our own self, if we haven't taken care of our own garden or our own yard or our own house, how can we fix anything outside of us? Meaning, if we're walking around with this internal void and trying to find things to fill it up, and we're walking around trying to give our power away to other people, we're walking around afraid of our own thoughts, we're walking around at war with ourselves, what are we going to create in the external world? How can we really fix anything in the external world if we haven't even done it within our own minds? So really what it comes down to is being mature, being adept in adapting and growing and being more conscious and aware and paying attention to what's actually going on and taking care of our own self, fixing our own self first and actually developing our own self and becoming individuated, having a sense of self. And we get into this idea about fixing other people or changing the world. We're talking about world peace. Everyone's talking about, oh, we got to change the world. We got to make something happen. We got to save the planet. We got to change things on this planet, otherwise the world's going to end. And really, it's not that the world is going to end. It's maybe that humanity might kill itself. Because the Earth doesn't care. The Earth will keep going. We can nuke the heck out of this planet so many times over. It doesn't matter. Life is still going to keep going on. It might go in a different direction. It might mutate. It might adapt. But life is just going to keep going. Humanity might end. Human beings might be gone. And well, that's our own fault. That's our own fault for being ignorant and stupid. And within that example, that illustrates and identifies a pretty major thing, which is that, well, who is humanity's worst enemy? Is it cancer? Is it tumors? Is it pollution? Is it not having the right drugs or not having the right diet or not having the right exercise program? Or not being enlightened enough, or not being spiritual enough, or not meditating enough, or driving a car that gets bad gas mileage and not recycling and living out of tune with nature? Are these things the real threat to humanity? Is an asteroid going to hit the planet? Are we not going to be able to save ourselves, or, all these different questions. Really, who is the number one enemy to man? Obviously, it is man himself. Obviously, we are our own worst enemies. And who are we, in fact, cruelest to as human beings? Just look at history. Just look at lifestyle. Look at behavior. Look at psychology. Look at how people live. Look at the world and how it stands today. And look at how people are so caught up in fixing other people, making them better, making them different, reforming them, converting them, saving them. Whether it's, hey brother, I love Jesus Christ and I'm knocking on your door. I need you to be saved, because if you're not saved, you're going to go to hell, and I care, so I need you to go to heaven. So you have to join my organization and maybe you can get into heaven. Or is it, hey brother, I figured out this raw food diet or this vegetarian or this vegan diet, and hey, I'm saved now. I'm pure, my life is so much better, and I've seen the light, so I need you to see the light too. So if you just come over here and join my group and get on board, then you can be saved too, I promise. Is that really what we're doing? Is that how really we're going to change the world? We're going to inspire people and educate people and let them know and make sure it happens, because people know they have the right information, and we'll just save the world. That's what'll happen. Is it? How many movements have we had throughout the course of history of people trying to do exactly that? And oftentimes, what ends up happening? the world just keeps going. People just keep doing what they're already doing. Maybe a small little group thinks they're going to do X, Y, or Z. Then eventually they usually sabotage themselves or screw themselves or double-cross one another, or whatever, for whatever different reasons they engineer their own self-destruction. We're going to look at the hippies, for example. We're going to look at a lot of different movements throughout human time. People are like, oh, we're going to change the world. What happens? What changes? These things we need to look at. And obviously, we're not saying these things are bad. We're not saying they're good. We're not saying they're anything. We're just looking at things and looking at this psychological process and this mindset. And looking at things like, oh, we're going to run for the cure, or we're going to get the government to pass this policy, and then things will be different. But if that were true, there would be no drugs in this country. Which, I'm filming this in the United States, which aren't even really united, but that's a different question. So, but the fact of the matter is, there's tons of drugs everywhere. More and more drugs are coming onto the market every single day. There's been a war on drugs for how many years? 30, 40 plus years. Billions and billions and billions of dollars. Hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, actually millions and millions of people. So many things have been thrown at this. And what? More drugs than ever. So obviously, government policies don't really work because people do what they want. Speeding's illegal. How many times do you speed? Probably every single day. There's a ton of things that we all do every single day that are illegal, that we just do because that's what we want to do. It has nothing to do with what anyone says or tells us is right or wrong. Likewise, there's been trillions of dollars dumped into cancer. Is there a cure? Maybe. Has it come from the pharmaceutical industry? Maybe not. Is it highly publicized and widely available? That for sure is the answer is no, because there's still a lot of people dying from cancer. But interestingly enough, what is one of the top leading causes of death in America right now? Is it cancer? Is it heart disease? Is it cigarettes? No. It's the medical system itself. What's one of the major things that kills humans across the board? Is it war? Is it famine? Is it each other? Most of the time, it's their own government. If you look at history, you look at statistics, you look at books about the subject, you can see that actually the data shows that governments and ruling bodies have killed more of their own people than really anything else combined. So really, is it policies? Is it politics? Is it politicians? Is it running for the cure? Is it doing all of these things in fundraising and X, Y, and Z? Well, obviously, if it were the case, then all these things would be gone. People say, oh, you gotta take calcium to build strong bones. Well, for how many decades have we been supplementing every single sort of food with calcium? People take calcium pills. People take calcium-enriched bread and milk and cheese and all these different foods for the calcium to build strong bones. But what happens to osteoporosis? Well, you would think it's gone. It's totally gone. It's not. It's actually more prevalent now than it ever has been. And a whole host of other diseases have opened up from it, have descended from it because it's evolved and changed and mutated over time. So really, the calcium hasn't fixed it. Well, why? Because maybe the mindset that devised the idea that calcium will fix it is incorrect. Maybe the assumptions, maybe the philosophical basis, maybe the paradigm is wrong. So then they jump off from that wrong place and then end up in the wrong place, don't produce the results. Maybe magnesium is more important. Maybe silica is more important. Maybe there's a whole host of nutrients and minerals and exercises and other things that are far, far more important. But is that widely available? Definitely not. So we really have to look at these things and understand that when we're talking about fixing other people and changing the world and the policies, running for the cure and getting politics and science and this and that and all the mainstream culture, it's always, oh, it's coming tomorrow. It's coming later. Oh, we're almost there. We're so close. We just need a little bit more money. We just need a little bit more time, and then we're going to get it. It's never now. It's never here now. It's always, well, they will fix it tomorrow. Who's they? Well, the government, or they, the scientists. You know, it's funny when people talk about research, people talk about data. You know, they just did this study, and they found this, and they found that, and they said this, and well, they were studying this, and they were looking at that. Who is they? Well, it's really this mindset of like, oh, those people over there that are actually doing something and fixing things, they're going to fix it tomorrow. But the thing is, those people are looking at other people, and other people are looking at other people, and all along the way, everyone is just trying to put the responsibility onto someone else, because everyone is operating out of this same mindset. No one is coming along and saying, all right, now, we got to take responsibility for what we're doing. We got to actually be aware. We got to actually see what's going on and pay attention and not buy into this crap of all these illusions. We got to just look at it here and now and actually open our eyes and see what's going on. And when humans focus in that way, things actually happen. Things actually get done. If you ever think about, you know, maybe you have this thing you're trying to do. Maybe, you know, there's a room in your house that's really dirty, and you've been trying to do it for like a year or however long. You're just like, oh, yeah, I'll do it later. Yeah, I'll do it later. Yeah, I'll do it later. And then what happens one day, you're like, okay, enough is enough. Right now, it's going to get done. It's done. People say, oh, you know, change takes time. Transformation takes time. You got to be gentle. You got to love yourself. You got to do this. You got to do that. It's all BS. All these things happen in an instant. When we make the choice to say yes or no, simple as that. Okay, now we're doing it. Now. Because that's all we ever have. That's all that's really ever real. And anything else is just putting it off on someone else, putting it off for later. And everyone is always wanting to do that. And we can look at religion. Well, you know, the fall of man. Well, Adam says, God looks to Adam and says, Adam, why did you do this? What happened? Adam says, hey, it wasn't my fault. Eve told me to do it. And God's like, well, of course it's a woman. You know, let's blame her first and foremost. But Eve, you know, why did you do it? She's like, it's not my fault. The serpent told me to do it. And the list just goes on and on and on and on and on. All the while, it's still, they will fix it tomorrow. Someone else will do it for me tomorrow. Never now, never here. And from this mindset, we're basically just giving over the rights of our dominion, rights of ourself to another person. And whenever we're doing that, there's going to be problems. There's going to be these sorts of BS mindsets and delay tactics and illusions running rampant in the world, which is the state of affairs right now. If you look around in the world, you just go outside and you look. You turn on the TV, you look at the news, you look at the media, you go to the mall, you go anywhere where humans are, it's there. You look at history, how many wars are going on, how many millions and millions of people are being killed all the time by other human beings as a result of other human beings. So we come back to this whole thing about becoming individuated, becoming an individual, becoming a self. And what does that mean? Well, in our title, we're talking about being holy. Okay, well, when you see this thing, being an individual and being holy, what does that mean? Well, people think holy is like, you got to be like Jesus, you got to be like Buddha, you got to be larger than life, you got to be the idealized figure, you got to be pure and perfect and blah, 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 and I could never do that because I'm a human and I have animal desires. In reality, what a holy means is exactly whole, whole-y. It's really simple. It has nothing, there's really no spiritual or religious connotations. They basically just took the word and used it. And then people think it is really the thing, but really at its essence, at its core, its real nature, it just means to be whole. It means to be united, meaning no longer being at war with like, well, I should be more spiritual and I should be less physical. I should be more emotional but less mental. I should be this, I should be that. You know, I have my business self, my job self, my relaxing self, my spiritual self, my romantic self, my fun self, my child self, my higher self, my lower self, my middle self, my evolved self, my past, you know, my past life self, my other past life self, my future life self, my future incarnated self. We have all these sort of divisions in our consciousness. All these things which are at war with each other. All these things which are hitting each other. Oh, well, I want to do this. And the other part says, no, you really should do that. No, you should do this. We're basically just prey to our own voices. We're at war with our own minds because we're not whole. Because we're not united. And we can see really to have our self, to have a self, to have a real self, to be a self, to be individuated. We can look at the circle, which of course is the most amazing circle that's ever been drawn. And it's a circle, side of a circle, side of a circle, side of a circle, and side of a circle. But the bigger circle encompasses the smaller circle naturally. So we can look at different levels of our consciousness are all basically being encircled by a greater picture of ourselves, which would be our self, which would be our becoming individuated, which means becoming whole, becoming holy. And how is that really going to do anything in the world? Well, as we said earlier, if we haven't fixed ourselves, we haven't looked at ourselves or taken care of our own garden, how can we do that at all for other people? And we think we are evolved, but we are in fact primitives. Think about that for a second. We think we have technology and we wear these clothes and we're watching computers and we drive cars and we're this age and this, that, and we've done all of these things. We think, man, we're really evolved and animals are stupid. All the other organisms on the planet are stupid, but we're the best. We're the top. We're amazing. We're spiritual. We're evolved. We have consciousness. We have a forebrain. We have logic and thought, and that makes us better than everything else. But in reality, we're primitives. Primitive creatures. Why? Well, for all of the reasons that we've just talked about. For all of the reasons why humans kill so many other humans all the time. And more importantly for this conversation, we can ask ourselves, who are we cruelest to? And think about that. Who are you the cruelest to? Who are you the meanest, the harshest, the most judgmental, the most critical, the hardest on? Usually it's yourself. Sure, we might be hard on other people. The reason we're hard on other people is because we're hard on ourselves. We're cruel to ourselves. We're unkind to ourselves because we're not united. We're not whole. We're not holy. We're just mean to ourselves. We're at war with ourselves because we are so primitive. Because we think X, Y, and Z and we buy into all the hypnosis and all the illusions, so we're not centered. Our shin is not anchored. So then we're just hypnotized and kind of walking around. But in reality, we're just being cruel to ourselves all the time. And I heard this quote recently which basically says that you only hang around someone that is as cruel or less cruel to you than you are to yourself. But if someone is crueler to you than you are to yourself, then you'll start to have a problem with that. And I think that's a really enlightening quote. And by cruel, we don't necessarily mean like physically cutting yourself or harming yourself or beating yourself up. I mean psychologically, emotionally, behaviorally. How you respond to yourself, how you talk to yourself, your self-dialogue, your self-hypnosis, your self-programming, the story you tell about yourself, the character you build and create for yourself in the world. And really, we're often the cruelest to ourselves, judgmental, critical, not compassionate. And look at our habits. We train ourselves to deny pleasure, train ourselves to not deserve, to not be worthy, to not have this, to not have that, and beat ourselves up, saying, well, we have to do this program, we have to do that program, we have to get all these things done, there's no time to waste. Just beating ourselves up all the time. We have all this crap in our mind that's just dragging our body along. Kind of like you have someone by the collar and you're just sort of pulling them along. It's really what we're doing to the body. And we don't listen to the body. We don't acknowledge its intelligence. Because we're at war. We're not whole. We're not united. Our self is not individuated. It's not unified. So as a result, we leave the door open. We invite other people in and we step into other people. We overstep our boundaries. We don't respect boundaries. We don't really have any idea of boundaries. We think we have the right to tell people what to do, and as a result, people tell us what to do. And we're going around controlling, and we're going around being controlled because we don't understand these mindsets, because we're cruel to ourselves first and foremost, because we're at war inside of ourselves. So we create war in the external world. We think we're better than A, B, and C, and one part of us is better than this part, so we create that outside of us. We think we're better than this group of people because we think we're better than this part of ourselves. Because we don't know the external world. We don't know what it is. All we know is what registers on our nervous system. All we know is what we perceive and what we think we perceive, which is contingent upon our conditioning and what we're choosing to pay attention to. It's based on our state, it's based on our programming, it's based on what anchors we're accessing, it's based on our rituals. And we all have rituals. We all do certain things every single day. We all have habits, which are really rituals. They are pulling in anchors, they're pulling in emotional information, they're really programming us and hypnotizing us into behaving and believing and feeling in certain ways. A lot of our rituals are unconscious. We wake up, we brush our teeth, boom. We wake up, we turn on the TV, we wake up, we turn on the internet or whatever. And all the while, these are just rituals. What are our habits? What are our rituals? What are our thoughts? And what are those rituals and thoughts and habits creating? And are they cruel? Or are they compassionate and kind and loving and allowing? First and foremost, to ourselves. Because we can't give what we don't have. We can't miss what we never had. And what we have inside of us is what we have inside of us. So when we tell someone, oh, that sucks, or oh, you're such a jerk, really all we're saying is we're the kind of person that would say that. We're the kind of person that would think that. We are the kind of person that is critical or judgmental or narrow-minded or not intelligent enough to maybe see what it is, or maybe so intelligent that we see what it is and we don't agree with it. But either way, we're not really talking about the thing, we're talking about ourselves. So when we're going around talking about, oh, we got to save this and do that and prevent this cure and prevent that cure and do this and raise funds and do that, it's outside of us. It's always outside of us. It's always someone else. It's always somewhere else. It's always sometime else. It's never here and now. Because everything is just a reflection of our state. It's all just a reflection of who and what we are and what we're choosing to be, what we're choosing to focus on. So our question is not making all these people bad and making everyone evil and right or wrong and making this person a culprit. The question is coming back to ourselves, being responsible, realizing that, yeah, it's going to take work. It's going to take time and energy, and it might not always be easy. It might be hard. It might be fun. It might be amazing. It might be enlightening. It might be a whole lot of different things. But it's just really a choice. The choice is up to us. The choice is where are we going to put our attention? Where are we going to put our focus? And where are we drawing the lines? Where are we drawing the boundaries? So as a fundamental basis, we can look at this thing here, which is the infinity symbol, which you can see is really basically one circle and then another circle. It's basically two separate circles that interact in the middle. So over here we have person A, then we have person B, and then we have the shared space in the middle. So shared space. And what we have with these lines is we have boundaries. We have each person's intrinsic inner space, which is their intrinsic inner space. It's not our intrinsic inner space. It's not our right to go in and say, hey, you should be this, should be that, that's wrong, that's bad, da 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 da. That's not our right, because that's their space. This is our space. We have every right in our space to say we should be this, we should be that, you should do this, you should do that, I love you, I hate you, you're the best, you're the worst. We have every right to do that because that's our own space, because that is our birthright, because that is us, that is who we are. And that's really where the work can happen, so the transformation can happen, or that's where the sabotage can happen, or the death can happen, or the psychophobia can happen, or the birth can happen. Not over here in the other person, but inside of us. And the same thing is true for that person to us. And really, if we're in a situation, we really love someone, we're really close to someone, we really have a connection, we feel open, maybe we can open to them more. Maybe we can open up space and they can say, oh, cool, boom, I'll enter that space. But they're only doing it because they respect us. They respect that, yeah, this is your intrinsic space, and you're allowing me to come in. That's great, that's amazing. And we're consciously aware that, yeah, this is my intrinsic space, and I like you, I trust you, I connect with you, so come on in. The door's open, it's a conscious decision. But then when we say, you know what, I'm not really feeling this anymore, or this isn't really working, then okay, boom, maybe we move back to here, and they say, oh, okay, thanks, I'll move back, and vice versa. And that's really the basis for relationships and the basis for relating. Because we don't necessarily have the right to tell someone what to do. Maybe really all we have the right to do is to our own dominion. And if someone wants to sell us crap, that's fine. We don't have to buy it. If we don't like what someone says, turn off the channel. It's kind of like on my YouTube channel where people just go there and say, oh, you're so boring. This is really stupid. I don't understand it. Why would you make this video? It doesn't make any sense. Why can't it be shorter? Why can't it be faster? Why can't you make it more entertaining? Why can't you cater to my ADD? Why can't it be a minute and 30 seconds like every other video on YouTube? Why can't you have flash, 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 flash? Why can't it be X, Y, and Z? You're such an idiot. You're such a jerk. Why would you say this? Why would you say that? People just go on and on and on and on and on and on. And really the question is, number one, if you don't like it, don't watch it. No one's making you watch it. Just turn it off. You know, I don't like Fox News. I don't like the TV. I don't like CNN. I don't like that crap in general. So I don't watch it. I don't turn it on. I don't look at it. And if I'm at an airport or I'm at somewhere where it's on, I just don't look at it. I just say, you know what? I'm going to do something else. I don't go around and say, oh my God, we got to turn this TV off. I can't stand the TV. I hate it. And that's what most people do. They freak out and think, oh, well, I don't like this, so everyone else has to not like this, and everyone else has to do what I think, and blah, blah, blah. And that's really the behavior that creates Nazis. That's the behavior that creates genocide. That's the mindset that creates religious fanaticism and the Crusades and burning people at the stake. That's the sort of behavior that is poisonous and toxic to this planet. So the real threat isn't cancer or tumors or asteroids. It's these poisonous little programs that cause us as humans to harm ourselves and go out and harm other people because we don't understand this intrinsic space. That each person has an intrinsic space, and maybe, you know what? Maybe we just don't want to relate. Maybe it's just going to be empty space between these two people. Maybe it's just going to be a big wall. Okay, fine. Move on. It's not there. It's not open. If the door is closed and it's locked, why are you just going to keep hitting it and beating on it and trying to get it open, forcing it open? Because usually if you do get it open, it requires a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of energy. And then on the flip side, when you do get it open, you're intruding on someone else. So it's kind of like you go to your neighbor's house, you just intrude and say, hey. Or actually, think about the Jehovah's Witnesses and these kinds of groups that just go around and knock on people's doors. It's so kind of short-sighted because it's not invited. No one is sitting around saying, oh man, I really hope someone shows up today and converts me. Or hey, I really hope someone shows up today and does this for me. No one really says that. Because if they did, they would go out and find it. Because they would open their door to it. But no one really does that. And what happens when people, knock on the door? They're upset, like, what do you want? Why are you here? Why are you interrupting me? I'm doing something else. This is my house. This is my home. You're not an invited guest. This is not your property. This is my property. And you're really interrupting my day. What do you want? The same thing as if we force our way into someone else's space. They don't like it. And cyclically, these things are happening. They're responding and saying, I don't like it. But people do it. People handle social things that way. People handle political things that way. People handle changing the world that way. Being holy, being spiritual, being evolved, and going around saying, oh, well, I think this is good for you. This is better for you. Trust me. You need to do it. It doesn't work. It's not respectful. It's not really harmonious. And it's basically not taking into account each person's intrinsic space and respecting it. And respecting each person's intrinsic space. I just realized this is a lot of scribbles back here. So hopefully you can kind of catch what we're talking about here and start to see and imagine examples in your life of how it's true and how it applies. We've covered a lot of ground, covered a lot of different ideas, a lot of different topics, a lot of different principles and concepts and a whole gamut of really impactful, important information. So the question is now is how can we apply this in our own lives? How can we shift our psychology and our frame and our focus to move into a different direction and start to operate out of more harmonious principles, to start to look at our relationships as really respecting each person's intrinsic space, our political views, our social views, everything about it, respecting each person's intrinsic space and taking back our power, taking back our inherent responsibility and our inherent dominion over ourselves. Because if we don't do it, there's plenty of people knocking at the door all the time that will gladly take it away, gladly have it, and give you the haircut or the tattoo or the social status or whatever to help you medicate that void that you feel, which is a natural, inherent human desire, which is why it works and why it's so powerful, which is really that desire for the self. It's really that desire for truth in harmony. It's an appetite that we all have. It's a natural functioning that we have in our body all the time.